What policies is your school district developing around AI? What are your policies and culture of your own classroom? Casey and I have some suggestions. AI powered education is next.
Hello there. Welcome back to our episode on AI and how we are creating policies to make sure that the AI use that we have in our schools is fitting for our students, for our teachers, for our administrators, and overall just creating this community that is allowing students to be prepared for our future. So today, Sandra and I wanted to explore this idea of policy and how do we sort of create an atmosphere for students, teachers, and administrators to utilize AI in a way that's safe, that's appropriate, that will be capable of preparing students for the future. So, Sandra, tell us a little bit about where you're at as far as thinking about a policy in an education setting that's suitable for AI use.
Yeah, so again, I think you used exactly the correct word, setting the atmosphere, because that is really what we're going to talk about. We're not going to give you nitty-gritty little words to say or put into your actual policy. We're saying set the atmosphere, get the right people at the table. And the right people are a diverse group of people, people that are administrators, that are teachers, that are learners, that can sit around, that have diversity in them and can really talk about what is it that our district or our system, our students really need to help with setting those policies. And I think they're like two separate areas. One is the policy that is set by the district, which I'm talking about, again, setting the right atmosphere, putting all of that together. And in that respect, that's very, again, like we said, focus on policy for the school district, but they're also setting a table or the create atmosphere. The right atmosphere is for the culture of your classroom. So those are the two areas that I like to think about. So again, with all the people that have a stake in this, and I guess I forgot to say caregivers and maybe some para. I mean, everybody that is going to be affected by AI in the classroom. And then and getting them together, those policies, like what are you going to do for staff training? Like, how are staff going to be trained? You cannot implement this policy, this program, this tool without. This is not like, I know that we had talked about these things earlier, but it's not like putting something out on a whiteboard and learning about whiteboards. This is a tool, fine, but this is something that can be transactional, that can be helpful for us, but it also can be transformational. So that's what we want to work toward. So in the policy realm, it's more like, staff development, making sure everybody's trained, making sure that we have data privacy and our learners are safe as well, and that it's equitable. So I like just thinking of those three big categories. Everyone's around the right people at the table making these policies. But for yourself in the classroom as a teacher, like, what are those really important things again? And you do want it very much, again, to be safe. You want people to feel that they can trust each other, that they all have a voice, that it is equitable, that it's diverse, collaborative, right? So when you put those things in there, and that it's also ethical, kind of like building that in there as well, and having those conversations, and that conversation, developing that culture with your learners is super essential. And both of those policies and the culture need to be ready day one, or probably before school starts, and it goes home to family members and people can talk about it. But I would not want to have, I would not, as an educator, want to walk into my people that I work with at the college level that are going to be teachers, or any high school or elementary, without having that culture that I know I'm going to build in my room before school even starts. How about you, Casey? Like, how do you see that playing in to culture in the classroom as well as policy?
No, I think that's really important that you distinguish those two pieces, right? Like, our district has a culture and an environment that we need to sustain, and to say, you know what, as collectively within our district, whatever grade level the students are learning at, or the teachers are teaching at, or the parents and caregivers for our students, wherever they're at, they all understand where the district stands, right? Like they understand what are the conditions that we need to have as a district in order to feel like we are providing the best educational space for the students. And those three things that you talked about is really important because it's about those boundaries, and boundaries aren't banning. Like boundaries aren't saying absolutely unacceptable. We're not using this. This is cheating. This is that. That's so unrealistic for our lives and for our students' lives. Instead, it's about understanding, what type of generative AI programs and tools will we buy into as a district because of these reasons. Here's what it does. This is how it satisfies our goals. This is how it meets our needs as a district. And then being the next step is to like go into the classrooms and to talk to the teachers and to say, here's how this is a big picture idea. Here's let's say we're going to talk about this is our policy on generative AI within our district. How does that look in your classroom? Give teachers a space to play with different types of tools so that they know and understand how it works. Again, just time is so important for teachers to be able to experiment and play around. I know a lot of times I even feel this way too. Sometimes it's like, just tell me what to do. Just like give it to me straight and say like, yes, you can do this. No, you cannot do that. But that is not really the approach that AI should have within the classroom, because there's just there's too many tools, there's too many things out there. But really understanding the value of what sort of mundane or the minutia we've said before in the classroom does this teacher need to try to alleviate, or what sort of system do they need to have in their classrooms to make their curriculum more effective for their students? Those sort of things, like giving teachers space to think about that and to design then in their own minds, their own policies that they'll have within their classroom.
Yeah, I think about the learner too. Like, do they even have time to think about what they are, like what their own personal values and ethics are and what they believe their character is? It's just like, do this, here's the assignment, like whatever. But if you do that upfront work, then I think it really does take away a lot of that, like, well, you cheated or you use this incorrectly, or it's like, well, that's not what
you shouldn't have to tell a student that. They would know that.
Right. And
as a consequence, or, they understand the consequences.
Yeah. And I really like more and more all the time, we talk about storytelling and how important that is. And I think being able to look at examples or scenarios or case studies or whatever, and just say, well, this is what happened. How would we do that as learners? Whether it maybe as a teacher, if you're doing staff training, like, here's the scenario, see what happened. How will we walk through it? How will we talk with it? How will we get past it? And we'll all still be at the table and we'll all still be learning, like in a positive way, not feeling cheated somehow, or they got one over us or something. Because
well, and that's a really great idea, actually. Like, come up with the scenarios, that teachers and students might face, and take a moment to maybe this is part of staff development to say, here's a scenario. How are we going to respond to that? How does our policy help you navigate that scenario? Does it? If it doesn't, then let's think about how we're going to amend it. What can we do? What can we change? If you have, additional concerns, or like give the space for teachers to engage with that, but then also take similar scenarios into your classrooms with your students, depending on the age level you're working with, and say, hey, here's our policy. Here's a scenario. What would you think would be the consequences? Or how might somebody respond to that? How would you respond to that? I do ethical simulations with my students every year, and usually around the idea of plagiarism. And, I say, okay, here's this brochure. A student uses this for their informative speech, but they never cite this. We do scenarios like that all the time. Why wouldn't we offer those same types of scenarios for AI use? It just makes the most sense.
So again, we just talked about, again, not the specifics of the wording that should be in your policies in the district wide, or campus or whatever. And then also thinking about the culture of your own personal classroom. What kind of values and things do you want to encourage and help learners feel safe with? And I believe, as you said, if you get that atmosphere set up correctly and you have all those different players at the table, then you'll really develop the best kind of policies, just like we believe in developing AI and algorithms and all that. The most people, the most diverse at the table will make the best product.
Well, and always coming back to the human, the human aspect, and AI is here for you as an excellent tool to make sure that your information is there, it's present. You don't have to worry about being a dictionary, right? It's available to you wherever you want to go, as just an example. But reminding students and reminding teachers of who humans are and what they're capable of as far as creating relationships and being able to have emotions and learn from previous experiences, and all of that is so important and vital. And I think as long as our policies and in our classroom and that culture that we're creating comes back to that concept that humans are what we value, and that connection is the most important part of what we do in education.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.